Back live. I don't know what to believe in this case. It's blowing my mind. The cult. I don't know what to believe. I really don't know what to believe. It's just weird and wacky, and there's so many different elements to it. But welcome back to the LTL podcast. We are live right now. We're live streaming from the great state of Massachusetts, and this is episode 105. And we are going to take a deeper look into the Delphi murders this evening. I want to welcome everybody into the live show. If you are on the right-hand side of the chat, feel free to chat along with my group. We have a great group, a live group that comes over here and hangs out. If you're watching this on replay, please go down there, comment, like, and subscribe. And if you're watching this replay, also the best thing to do is always do a hashtag replay in the comment section so I know that you are watching this on the replay. But welcome back into the live show, everybody. The chat room will fill up. I have a poll at the top to start this evening off. And before I get into the heart of the show, I want to welcome Kelly D, now a moderator of the group. She has a wrench. So welcome, Kelly. Congratulations to that. Kelly and I had the opportunity to actually speak offline yesterday. And we had a great time, really great time. So welcome to Getting a Wrench. All right, so let's get into Delphi. Let's do a little bit of replay first. I'm seeing the chat fill in here. Let me just get to everybody really quick. I have a lot of great people in this name. Danielle, a new member. Danielle has become a new member. Now a rookie detective. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate you. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Kelly D's here, of course. Buttercup in the room. Brenda here. Bella, one of my channel mods. Good to see you here as well. Danielle, hope you're feeling better. One of my channel mods. Thank you for being here. Rogue in the room. Good to see you as well. Carrie H, a mod. Always here. Always here. Love it. Dina's here. Thank you for being here. Let me see. Who else do I got? Petrified. Good to see you over here. I've been seeing you over here a lot. Nice to see you here in the room. We got Detective John in the room. What's going on, buddy? I can drop the link if you want to join the panel, of course. Texas Ranger here. OCD, good to see you back. Jessica's been here a lot lately. Candy, one of my channel moderators in the room. Crafty Mama, good to see you. Robert here, nice to see you back. Always here now. Minnesota Nice, been seeing that name a lot lately. Good to see you as well. New Hampshire, right? Hey, hello from New Hampshire. I don't think I've seen you in the room, but hopefully you're just new over here and you're just joining the chat. Ken Powell here. Good to see you. Cheryl's here. Who else we got? Kelly says, I have always enjoyed your mods and subscribers. Brian, you are a stand-up guy, and I love finally meeting you face-to-face. Yes, we had a great talk last night. Me, you, Detective John, off camera, backstage. Really, really good. TS Crime is here. Good to see you. Fraser's here. And I think I've got everybody so far. So hopefully the chat will fill in. I worked on some new overlays today. If you see that down on the left-hand side of the corner, LTL Podcast, True Crime and More. We are live streaming. And always like and subscribe. And this is a live show. All right, let's do a little bit of a replay. John's asking for the link. I'm going to get him in here. Whenever you're ready, buddy. All right, let me pop this up here. I'm going to read from my notes. So I did a little bit of some notes on some background. So on where are we in Delphi? Where are we in Delphi right now? Just bear with me. I'm going to look to the left here so I can read my notes. On November 14th, on February 14, 2017, the bodies of Liberty Libby German, 14, and Abigail Williams, 13, were discovered in the woods near Delphi, Indiana. Richard Allen, a 50-year-old father, a CVS employee, was arrested in October of 2022 as the primary suspect in the double murders. His defense team consulting. Why is it every time? I gotta stop for a second. I will be not nasally all day. I will talk perfectly fine, drink water, eat food all day long. The minute I go on air, my nose just literally, my nasal cavity just starts running. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm going back to my notes. His defense team, consisting of attorneys Andrew Baldwin, I almost said Alec Baldwin, and Bradley Rossi, recently filed a 136-page memorandum in support of the Franks hearing, alleging that the girl's death were part of a ritualistic Odinist sacrifice performed by a pagan cult. So here's the defense claims. Excuse me. Actually, you know what I can do? I can just share my screen. Why am I not? Let's let the audience see what you got, dude. Hang on a second. Let me bring John in here. What's up, buddy? You got a hat on tonight. What the hell's that, man?
Bad hair day, bro.
Hey, I like the hat, bro. You look good with a hat. I like it. Everybody should wear a hat, right?
I wear a hat a lot, man. This is my Suncoast. I played softball for them.
I'm gonna say you probably do down there in Florida, I would expect. Let me bring up my let me bring my notes up so everybody can see it. All right, so we got I want to increase this. Here we go. All right, defense claims. Allen's defense attorney asserts that members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, allegedly hijacked by white nationalists, ritualistic sacrificed Abigail Williams and Liberty German. They point to 5 potential suspects, including one tied to the murders through social media posts and another whose son had a connection to one of the victims. The defense claims that the suspects confessed to his sister and other drunkenly admitted to the murders. All 5 men were allegedly part of an Odinist cult implicated in the ritualistic killings. John, what the is going on in this case, man? What do you think? What the hell's going on? Is this just another we'll call it an Ann Taylor tactic? Is this an Ann Taylor tactic, John?
This is the defense, creating a defense. That's all it is.
So basically, if this happens, this shifts the responsibility back on the prosecution, right? To prove that this is not a ritualistic killing.
Right. Well, let me back up. Did he not confess?
He confessed to his wife like 5 times in prison phone calls. They have it on record. They have it on recorded. So this is what's really weird about this. So the thing,
those are subject. Those are, when you're in prison, those are not secret conversations. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this garbage, but it's pretty pathetic if you ask me.
But so one would think, though, let's just throw this theory out there. Could it be that Richard Allen is part of some cult? Let's just say he is, and maybe there's other people involved in this. I mean, could that be a possibility? What the hell, man?
Brian, anything's possible, man. I mean, it just depends on what pair of glasses you're looking through, I guess. I mean,
It
The
wouldn't put.
things that they're doing today are just unbelievable. I mean,
Well,
it's
that's what I say. It wouldn't put me I wouldn't put past anything that this shit actually goes on. I mean, we know how weird and wacky people are. You know,
yeah.
we know how weird and wacky people are today. All right, let's look at these cult accusations. The defense also alleged that Odinist followers, who are correction officers at Westville Correction Facility, have threatened and intimidated Allen in jail. Brad Holder, one of the accused suspects, took to social media to defend himself against the allegations. So looking at the crime scene details. The court finally revealed gruesome details about the crime scene that were previously unknown to the public. The attorneys argue that the crime scene showed signs of ritualistic sacrifice and specific patterns involving tree branches on one of the victims' bodies. The girls' bodies were found with different positions, clothing, and levels of blood, suggesting distinct treatment by the perpetrators. Investigators believe both firearms and sharp objects were used in the murders. Case took a significant turn away from Allen's involvement, focusing on cult allegations and a new group of potential suspects. If the judge finds the law enforcement misled court to obtain a search warrant, it could jeopardize the case against Allen. This is crazy. The developments have reunited the interest of internet sleuths who have been following the case for years. Dun, dun, dun.
So I was looking, OCD asked here in chat, DJ guards allowed to wear Odin patches on their uniforms. I would say no. Is that an accusation that the guards are wearing Odin patches on their uniforms?
And something out there put out there into the ether about that.
There's no way that they would allow that. You know what word's missing? You know what word's missing here, Brian? What's the most abused word in a defense's vocabulary? Talked about it last night. What word is missing here?
In the I don't know.
Exculpatory.
Right. Right.
Now, wouldn't this be exculpatory evidence? I mean, come on. I mean, this has to be exculpatory. I mean, we got to get Richard Allen out of jail. I mean, come on.
Right. Well, let's
when did this bomb drop, by the way?
This was like a couple of weeks ago, just recently, probably like in the last week and a half.
Well, I can tell you that if the defense hasn't asked for an emergency hearing and they aren't using the word exculpatory, there's really not much to it. Because this sounds to me like laying the foundation to present this to the jurors to cast out. And remember, you only have to have one that buys it. You're rolling the dice.
Right.
You got a 1 in 12 chance of getting this guy acquitted. That's pretty sad.
It's crazy, man. All these weird, wacky theories now in these cases that just get thrown out there. And I think that, just because we have so much involvement now in social media, I mean, for crow's sake, we're on social media tonight talking about this, So I think I really think like these lawyers and stuff just come up these weird and wacky things because there's just so much of it now. Everything seems like a movie, everything seems like a bad movie script. It's just so weird.
Nothing's cut and dry anymore. I mean, there's a case out there, and I've got my team looking it up, but there's a case out there. I don't know if you saw it or not, where the Asian guy that owns a jewelry store, and they've got the guy on video coming in and pistol whipping him, leaning over the case and bashing his head in, jumping over the case counter, stomping his head. They've got him on video. And the jurors can't come to a verdict.
Crazy.
I mean, it's insane to me.
Well, I'm going to get into a case tomorrow that's happening here in the great state of Massachusetts. This case happened like 20 minutes from my house, and it's about a Boston police officer that was said killed or murdered by his girlfriend and left for dead in a snowbank. And there's a lot of weird things that happen in and around that case where Another gentleman is now involved, and they've looked at his internet search, and there was searches about how long does it take for a body to die in a snowbank. So it's really weird. And there's a guy that has been reporting on it out here. He's kind of a Boston personality called Turtle Boy, and he has some articles up. And there's a lot of supporters for Karen Reed, and it seems like there's a lot of suppression and information around this case. And again, I'm not going to make any determinations yet, but I'm certainly going to be investigating and look into this, and hopefully that I can get Turtle Boy on my podcast to talk a little bit more about this, because I'd like to hear both sides. And
wait a second. You were so he was off duty, I suspect.
Yeah,
they found him in a snowbank.
I'll tell you a little bit
They
about
did
it.
A search warrant on her digital footprint, found some searches, and she was
not hers, in and around that area, a house, and another suspect that is involved.
Okay,
yeah. What we'll do? I don't want to get too much into it, because tomorrow night I'm going to get into this. And
right.
It's very, very interesting, the things that I'm finding out about it. Now, I'm not saying a cover up. I'm not saying anything like that, because I don't know yet. But it's definitely something.
Maybe an accessory.
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to look into. So we'll
interesting.
We'll get into that. So tomorrow night will be Karen Reed. That's going to be a really interesting case. And I'm hoping that I can get Turtle Boy on to talk a little bit about what he's doing. And there's a lot of people that are supporting Karen Reed in this case. It just seems weird, and it's funky, and they don't think she did it. So again,
who is that? Who is that?
The community, our community, and around here, there's a lot of supporters. Yeah, there's a lot of supporters. So again,
was there bad history between the two of them? Was it
not that we know of, not that I've read so far. It was just a night of drinking, was dropped off, and this officer ended up dead in a snowbank, and they say that she backed her truck into him and left him for dead. It's just an odd, weird story, and there's more things that have now come into it, more discovery that have come into the case, and they think that there's that she is not, and there's actually another person that had done this. So it's weird. Again, I'm diving into it. I'm going to start deep diving into it and getting into it, and really spend some time on it, because it's buzzing around here again. The trial is set for next year in March, and it's starting to buzz, and there's been a lot of talk about it.
Is she out on bail, or is she incarcerated?
100,000. Yeah, 100,000. So it's manslaughter. Yeah, manslaughter.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to get into that tomorrow. I don't want to skew too much here.
Right. So Richard Allen. So he confessed. Not only he confessed to his mother too, correct?
I think so. Right? His wife. They do have
wife, but yeah, okay.
They have him in jailhouse phone calls, I think at least 5 times that he confessed to his wife.
But if they have that, there's no getting around that. I mean,
right.
They can do anything they want, but there's no getting around that if they have the actual confessions. I don't understand where they're trying to go. But
let's do this.
Why you know way more about this case than I do.
I was gonna say, let's play the video and we'll hear more about it right now. Good segue.
Cool. There we go.
Richard Allen,
Oh, by the way, I was wrong. I was wrong. That is JLR screaming at Richard Allen. So I come corrected. Right? It is JLR in this video screaming at Richard Allen. So I was wrong. I had a big thing going the other night, kind of a fun argument with everybody, just playing around in the chat room. And we were playing this video and everybody going, that's JLR screaming at him. I'm like, doesn't even sound like his voice. That's not JLR. That's JLR. That's JLR. I have people emailing me after the show. That's JLR. And I'm like, oh shit, it was JLR, because I found out.
How did you find out? How did you?
He sent me the link to the video that he posted on his page like 8 months ago.
Oh, he sent it.
He it was on his page, and a couple people sent me the video, and they're like, it's JLR, and I'm like, fuck. So it was just a fun little thing we were doing, but it's JLR screaming. It's kind of fun.
Child murder! Why did you do it? Shame on you! Shame
that
on
sounds
you,
like them to me.
You're thrown to prison for the rest of your life. Shame on you, Richard Allen.
So Richard Allen
I
says
know.
he's innocent, did not do it. But there is a confession here, according to prosecutors. Take a look.
Let me just recognize this new member. Lavender Girl has become a new member. Thank you so much. I appreciate
That's one of
you.
my mods.
Yeah, I appreciate your membership. All right. Thank you so much, Lavender Girl. She is now a rookie detective. Thank you. All right. Let me do a little bit of housekeeping here for a second and see if I got past the censors. So far, so good. All right. Let's keep playing.
This is from a prosecution file.
Vinny!
On April 3rd, 2023, Richard Allen made a phone call to his wife, Kathy Allen. In that phone call, Richard admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators have the call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard Allen admits that he committed the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. His wife, Kathy Allen, ends the phone call abruptly.
So there you go, John.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty compelling evidence right there. I don't know how he's gonna, unless he's claiming that, you know, there's some kind of a mental breakdown he's having, or, I mean, he lost a lot of weight, and they're showing that, of course. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't know how he's going to get around that. But I also heard that he confessed to his mother too. It seems like, I don't know how true that is, but seems like I heard that a few months ago. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, man.
I mean, that's compelling evidence. I'm surprised. I mean, I don't know if the state's, you know, going to allow a plea, or what they're going to do. Are you guys a death penalty? Are they a death penalty state?
Indiana, I have no idea. Probably
Indiana,
I think they are.
I think they are. So
Maybe someone in the chat knows.
They may not allow him to plea.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is a pretty egregious act. And
I just think it's weird that, you know, in April he's confessing, and then just a couple of weeks ago it's this cult theory. So it just looked really weird. You know.
Again, you know, wait, is this a death penalty case? It is, isn't it?
Does anybody know if Indiana's I don't know all the statutes in the state. Does anybody know if this is a death penalty case?
Because we got to remember, death penalty cases are an entirely different animal.
I feel like an ass.
They will fight tooth and nail on a DP case. It's not like any other case. So if he confessed, they'll try and talk him out of his confession.
Yes,
because no matter what, you're going to get an appeal on a death penalty case anyway. So why not throw in the kitchen sink? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So did anybody answer yet?
Yeah, Bella says it is. Yeah, it's lethal.
I thought it was.
I figured. I think Indiana. Yeah, I thought Indiana is a death penalty state.
So that's why this is all coming out. To be honest with you,
yeah.
If this wasn't a DP case, he'd probably, you know, they'd take the confession and sentence him, you know, and avoid the trial. But it, like I said, it's a DP case. So at the end of the trial, no matter what, an automatic appeal goes in. So
all right, let's listen here. What we got?
Okay, seems like powerful evidence. Why on earth would someone do that? Why? Well, take a look at what the defense is saying here. The defense is saying the evidence shows that during his pretrial incarceration at the Westfield Correctional Facility, Richard Allen has been monitored, intimidated, and mentally abused by correctional officers who are also members of the Odinite cult. Two of those corrections officers, Westfield corrections officers, boldly wore patches on their Department of Corrections uniforms.
Those are the patches right there, John. That's supposedly what they're wearing. That's the patch.
Yeah, I would like to see the Department of Correction uniforms with those on it, because heads are going to roll.
I mean, if it is, that's pretty damn compelling. I mean, if it is, it's pretty damn compelling.
Not good. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, showing some sort of corruption, in my opinion. I mean, there's no way that should be allowed. That's cult stuff.
Yeah.
that
Has no
proclaimed,
business.
quote, "In Odin we trust," along with another patch displaying symbols of Odinism. Normally, corrections officers were within earshot of every conversation between Richard and his attorneys and Richard and his wife, close enough that Richard would have to be worried about any conversation with his attorneys and with his wife being overheard by these correction officers. The officers even required that Richard Allen be positioned facing the window where the correction officer was videotaping the attorney visiting with his handheld camcorder. The positioning of Richard Allen's body would allow the corrections officers to videotape Richard Allen's mouth as he talked with his attorneys. Richard would therefore not be able to privately discuss anything with his attorneys, such as, here's the big part of all this. The guards are telling me that my wife and family will be killed unless I call my wife and tell her that I killed those girls.
Wow.
Here you go.
That's
That
wild,
makes
bro.
sense now. That totally makes sense. So, do I believe that happened? No, but I mean, if they subpoena anyone within that correctional facility and they find out that there is in fact a link, that's a problem. I mean, like I said, this is all a ploy to cast out. You know, the defense can say pretty much anything. They can
Right.
throw anything in there. I mean,
We've seen in the
it's-
Idaho case.
yeah. I mean, it's
driving
just,
around.
It's just driving around. It's just dirty tactics, and you know, it's like, you know, a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just a Hail Mary. You know, we got nothing to lose, so let's see what we can get away with.
It's wild.
Now, it would be pretty easy, an IAD investigation into this correctional. Is this a branch jail, or is it a full out correctional institution? Do we know?
I think it's a full out correctional institution.
Because if he's been in there under a year, it's probably not a correctional institution. It's probably just a branch jail. So I don't know if anybody in chat knows if he's in a correctional institution, or, I mean, because he can still be correction officers, but if it's
I think
not
what it is Richie been in there for a little while and he's not like in prison too much. So
but he hasn't been in there a year. He hasn't been in there a year yet,
I think the reality is
Has it?
starting to sink in a little bit that this is what his life is going to be the rest of his life if he's convicted of these horrible crimes. So
because most states is 364 days, and then after that you have to go to, you know, state prison.
right.
But it's like here we have a county holding facility. So yeah, if it's been over a year that he's been incarcerated, I don't remember when he was arrested.
Yeah, it says Lee says he's in state prison, so he's in
state prison.
Yeah.
Well, this would be really easy stuff to get to the bottom of. I mean, if they're wearing those patches,
that's not good.
That certainly it's an internal problem within.
That's going to raise some eyebrows, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, you only got to convince one out of the 12.
Right.
To get a
All right, let's keep playing.
There you have it.
Vinny.
That's the explanation. Let's bring back in our guests. Still with us, podcasters Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee, investigator Mike King, attorney Bob Motta, and joining us now from Ann Arbor, Michigan, clinical psychologist Dr. Colin King. Okay, I want to start with Bob Motta, though. Bob, I want to start with you. I understand they're trying to get the physical evidence from the search suppressed. Would this alleged confession also be suppressed as fruit of the poisonous tree, that he wouldn't have been incarcerated if they didn't get that other evidence? They wouldn't have had enough to arrest him? No. Do you think that happens? Or is the only way to deal with this confession is by going down the Odinism intimidation road?
I'd certainly make the argument that it was fruit of the poisonous tree. Everything that you know, once the tree and the roots are rotten, everything that blooms from it is rotten. Whether or not Judge Gull would agree with that, I don't know. But, you know, the thing that's important about that particular statement is, you know, the footnote. The footnote, because when I first read that first blush, I'm like, wow, well, that explains everything. The footnote explains where Rosie's saying, okay, well, he didn't actually say this, but this is what he could have said had he not been watched constantly by these two guards. So, you know, everything that's going on with this, Vinny, is insane to me. And I know Kevin and I were all in there for the last hearing when all this was being litigated in terms of them trying to get him moved. And we first heard about these guards using the camcorder to photograph and to videotape the attorney visits. And it was a situation where we were not made aware that they were turning him towards the window so that they could see his mouth. So, and as a criminal defense attorney, that's like me being able to talk to my client is sacrosanct in terms of privacy when I'm trying to prepare for trial. If I think that guards are even anywhere near earshot, I'm not talking at all. And I'm telling my client not to talk at all about anything substantive with the case. But your question's a fascinating one, because I would definitely 100% be trying to get it tossed out as well as through the poisonous tree, because it all stems from that warrant. If you don't have the warrant, you don't have the bullet. And then the question becomes, is mere presence at the bridge, which he volunteered that information, is that enough for the warrant to stand? That's ultimately what Judge Gall, presuming that these women come in and testify, we're talking about the witnesses, that they say, hey, Liggett lied. This is what we said, and this is what Liggett put in his affidavit. It's clearly a lie. And if Gull says, okay, well, I'm going to pull those out, does the warrant still have enough probable cause to stand on its own 2 feet without that timeline? That's ultimately what she's going to be charged with. And it's going to be tough for her, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree.
It's crazy because, I was just thinking about this, John. So if you have the patches and you have video evidence of them taping the mouth, that's not good. That's not good. That's going to raise some eyebrows.
Here's the sad thing. This is really going to come down to the dramatics of the opening statement.
Yeah,
that the prosecution is gonna present. So they're gonna have to sell it, and they're gonna have to, discount any of this, just blow it out of the water as a bunch of hearsay nonsense that the defense is trying to put together to cast out. But we got to remember too is, reasonable doubt. A lot of people don't think about what that actually means. So, you got a jury of 12 people and you're going to run this story by them. So is it reasonable to believe that this story actually, happened? So an internal investigation is probably already underway for the corrections facility. So they're going to wait on the results of that. That's going to be long drawn out. Yeah. It'll be an IAD, internal affairs, investigation. And they're going to try and get down to the bottom of any of those allegations. And, it's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, do I honestly believe something like that happened? Highly unlikely, but
can you imagine if it becomes part of this case? It'd be fucking wild. I mean, it would be mind blowing.
The fruits of the poisonous tree. I mean, it's a Hail Mary long shot, to try and answer, try to prove that there was intimidation and what he says is true. But remember, this guy has been laying in a 6x9 cell. He's had all kinds of time to think about, any kind of potential
way
out and stories. And, maybe he does know that that there's guards that are into that.
And who knows that it's not other, who knows it's not just other prisoners whispering this shit to him to fuck with him. You know what I mean? And people mess with you when you're in prison too. So keep that in mind.
But again, I mean, I'm gonna say this came out a couple weeks ago. You said, I mean, if it was that damning, and it was, again, they're not using the word exculpatory, so I just think this is all a bunch of BS, and they're just laying a foundation for a defense.
All right, let's play on here. We'll see.
Great, I agree. It really guts the case. Dr. Colin King, let's talk about a confession. A husband. Why would a husband who's just been arrested for a brutal murder of 2 girls confess to his wife on the phone? Is there something to that? Let's presume, number one, that he committed the murders. What would make a man who's been arrested for these murders confess when he speaks to his wife on the phone?
Sure. So there could be a number of factors. So let's presume that that is what he did. One reason could be extreme stress. When an inmate is isolated and at times teased by other inmates or prison guards, their mental psyche begins to break down. So that could be one possible explanation for why he would confess to his wife. Another one could be because of coercion. Maybe, and again, I don't know this for a fact, but under extreme pressure from, let's say, prison guards, and the person may be told, if you don't confess, your life is going to be miserable. But if you do, we will grant you certain favors. So, there's so many reasons why an inmate or a defendant will confess, even though he may not have committed that crime.
Okay, that's if he hasn't. But what if he committed the crime? If he's guilty, he did it. Why would he tell his wife on the phone?
Dude, this is like nuts, bro.
Hey,
So,
Brian.
And
Yeah.
Texas Ranger is a former prison guard.
Got it.
I wonder if Ranger would want to come on and into your chat. I mean, to your panel, and maybe you can throw some questions his way. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Yeah, I got a presentation lined up, so I want to kind of get through that tonight.
Gotcha.
But maybe if we I'll revisit this again as more stuff comes out, and we can plan maybe for him if he wants to jump on one night and do that. Yeah. I want to get through this.
He might be able to shed some light onto some of the.
Sure, absolutely.
I can't see prison guards threatening. I mean, they could care less.
It happens though. I mean,
it's just hard. It's a hard pill for me to swallow. But prison guards sometimes, it's like Ranger will probably tell you, sometimes prison guards are worse than a lot of the inmates. And I've met some pretty shady guards.
Well, it's power trip.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't. I won't get into that, but
sure. All right, we'll keep.
Well, I have assessed a number of mass shooters and killers, and it never.
And listen, I don't want to say. Listen, let's just make this very clear right now. We're not saying that all law enforcement is bad. We're not saying that all prison guards are bad. I think there's a very small percentage of people that serve our public community that get involved in bad stuff. I truly believe that 99.9999999% of people that serve our communities are good people. And it just takes a few people that fuck up, that get highlighted in the media. And what happens is that gets glazed over, and it puts a glaze over our whole justice system, that every cop is bad and every guard is bad and every FBI agent is bad and this and that. And believe me, there are a handful, abundance of them out there that this does happen with. But I believe in our justice system. I believe in the people that serve our community. So I want to make sure that we're straight on that.
I can't see that happening. But I mean, it's just, I've been surprised before.
It does happen. It does happen. I don't know if it's happening in this case. It could be a bunch of hogwash. And yes, I did just use the word hogwash.
Ceases to surprise me what they do. When one is isolated, Vinny, and you don't know what's going on around you, and you are stressed, you are depressed, you are anxious, you are obsessed with these thoughts. Sometimes it's the natural and logical thing to do because you want to confide in someone whom you know, not realizing that every single conversation is recorded. So it could be because his wife is his best friend, his wife is his go-to buddy, and he sees her as a sort of a solace. So that could be one possible explanation why he would confess to his wife.
All right. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, any evidence that you've come across that this Odinism exists in the prison, not just with the inmates, but with the prison guards?
You know, we've talked to a couple of sources who have spent time up at Westville, that Indiana prison where Richard Allen is incarcerated. And, you know, a couple of them ran with different gangs. And some of those gangs definitely have elements to them that would embrace Odinism and sort of white supremacy. So we talked with them about that and sort of ran this whole scenario by them. And nobody said, oh, yeah, that sounds exactly like something I saw or experienced. We did have some people say that there would be, you know, occasionally a corrupt CO who might be down with, say, like the Aryan Brotherhood, and maybe they might mule for them for money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily like they were also intensely interested in Odinism and ruins, but that they would basically get drugs for them outside of the prison and bring them in, you know, that sort of thing. More of an economic transaction.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, the more times that we hear about this, it's usually stuff with like smuggling, getting a cell phone in, drugs, you know, stuff like that, not to this high caliber of like cult activity. So,
Right.
uh,
Well, I know for a fact I've got a relative that's in jail right now, and he suckered $300 out of another relative, and he has a cell phone in jail.
it does happen.
In prison.
Yeah,
And
it
he's
does happen.
communicating. He's actually on Facebook. I'm sorry, not a cell phone, a tablet. It's a tablet.
Yeah, they all get
So
tablets now for some reason.
I don't know what the circumstances are and how that happens. That might be something Ranger could tell us about, but that's crazy to me. You know,
And thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Our investigation continues tonight into the Delphi murders. So much information was released this week, and each night we're going through.
Just yell stop when you want me to stop and you want to comment.
More and more of it. Tonight is going to be, I think, eye-opening and fascinating in looking at what the defense is alleging here. But let's start. I mean, Abby and Libby, these two young girls, best friends. So understand that relationship, right? And go back in your minds when you're growing up and you've got your friends and you do things together. And I remember growing up taking hikes all the time, whether it was 2 of us or 8 of us. You know, we would just head out into the woods, you know, looking for that waterfall or wherever we were going to go. And we'd be gone for hours and hours. Our parents did.
Waterfall? Where the hell are you?
Niagara Falls or somewhere.
Seriously, where are you, dude? Like, where are you looking for waterfalls?
Didn't worry. And then we came home, right?
In Smoky Mountains, there's a bunch.
He's like, when I grew up in New Jersey, I went looking for waterfalls.
And that's what was happening that day and should have happened that day. But we know it was much worse. It was evil. I mean, this was also a bizarre crime scene where these 2 young girls were murdered. What you're looking at is a graphic depiction that we put together based upon the descriptions in these papers that have been filed by the defense. And when you look at the covered in...
Now, John, I know that you're just kind of catching up on this. This is the way that you're seeing these symbols over the bodies was symbols that were used using like tree branches that were laid out over the bodies, allegedly. And there was some blood splatter in and around the bodies as well, too. And one of the branches supposedly that was cut was cut with what they would say like a clean saw, like someone took it to their table saw and cut it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So I wonder, you know, let's just say whoever did this, and there really isn't any ritualistic thing, but they wanted to make it look like a ritualistic thing to throw off the investigation.
Was he into any cults?
Not that we know of.
I mean, they took a picture of him for a reason.
Yeah.
To me, that's a big, I mean, why why did one of the girls feel the need to take a picture of him?
Well, that video.
I wonder if people have thought about that, or video him, or anything about him. Why?
Well, after this video, I'm gonna play a quick, about 14-minute video from Dr. G. He's a body language expert, and he's gonna explain a lot of these photos and videos and stuff. So I really want to get into that too. I think it's going to be pretty good. All right, let's keep playing through here. Vinny.
Sticks and the way the bodies appear to perhaps be positioned. At least that's the allegation by the defense, that it was some sort of ritualistic thing that was going on here. It's not normal. Whatever it was, it just didn't seem normal. Not that any murder is normal, right? But
Right.
there are murders where, okay, you find a body, and the body, the person is killed, the person is murdered, and they leave the body there. Here, it appears something else was done in this case. And if what the defense has filed with the court is exactly what the evidence shows, then you're talking about really bizarre, where they're taking the clothes from one of these girls and putting it on the other girl, and the other girl's naked, and all of it is bizarre and evil at the same time. Richard Allen, the accused in this case, is saying, not me, it's not me. This isn't a case of saying, well, this happened and things got out of control. No, it's not me. I didn't do it. Couldn't be any clearer in what they're saying here. He did not do it. And it's not even a case where they're saying, well, there's not enough evidence to prove that he did it. They're actually saying he didn't do it, and there is someone else responsible for all of this.
I don't know, man. This is crazy.
Here's my thought on
Not
you
just
know, you had someone speaking a minute ago on on his show, and when someone is incarcerated, there's a good point. There's kind of like a point of that impending doom, and you're a done deal. So it's kind of like when you have somebody that you love and you trust, and you're carrying on a conversation with your wife that you've been with for I don't know how long they were together, but it's more like a dying declaration. Okay, it's like you're already you're gonna die, so you're just gonna tell. He probably wanted her to hear it from him, and end the pain, because I hear all this speculation that he wasn't doing good, he wasn't eating, and all this stuff.
Right.
And when people are under duress, they do crazy things, like in divorce. When you have one person that wants to get a divorce, let's say the woman wants the divorce, the man doesn't.
Right.
There's a lot of manipulation there, and sometimes the man will actually sign for the divorce because he's under duress, and she may say something like, let's just get divorced and we'll work it out. I've seen cases like that. And this is something that could be something like a dying declaration, because the reports that I was hearing was he wasn't doing good and he was kind of giving up.
Yeah.
So, again, this is a DP case, and they're going to throw in the kitchen sink, and they're going to fight for him no matter what.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Just before we go forward, our goal tonight is to get to 100 likes in the chat. We got 136 people, so I know there's new people that just came in. If you can just take a second, smash that like button. I really would appreciate it. Let's get to 100 likes this evening, so the algorithm will like the stream and push it out further into the abyss of the algorithms. Thank you.
Yeah, they didn't do it.
Right.
No. I couldn't have done it because they did it. Talking about this group of alleged white nationalists who follow Odinism, this ancient Nordic religion, and then everything left at the crime scene was some sort of a sign. And even to this day, as he sits behind bars, the guards at the prison where he is also follow this religion. And if this is true, this is beyond anything I've ever seen or heard.
That's what I've been saying.
Beyond. But that's
Yeah,
what
Vinny's even stunned.
they're alleging here. They're also alleging that the investigators, the prosecution has concealed some of this evidence when, getting a search warrant, not revealing everything, changing little facts here and there, holding on to things that would be exculpatory in nature.
There you
and
go,
not
John,
releasing
your
it
favorite
until
word.
they have to release it to the defense. Now that I've seen a lot in many cases, allegations of that in many cases. At the end of the day, this is going to be a trial in front of a jury, and whether or not the evidence was given over in time or not in time, everyone will have an opportunity to put all of this in front of a jury.
Yeah, we're going to do a lot of refresher on this. This is, it's been circulated on the interwebs for quite a while now, but now all this new information that's come out.
Which is what I want to do here tonight, is put in front of you the things that we are finding out that are being alleged in these papers. And we're going to begin with something that could be by itself reasonable doubt in this case. We're talking about 3 investigators who were working this case, who were going in a completely different direction and believe.
Yeah, this is very interesting, John. Listen to this.
That it was this ritualistic killing. It was not Richard Allen. 3 investigators. Take a look. This is from the defense memorandum. Retired Rushville Assistant Police Chief Todd Click, Detective Kevin Murphy, and Detective Greg Ferenczi were 3 of the law enforcement officers who worked on the Delphi murder case, particularly focused on the Odinite angle as it intersected with suspects in Rushville, Indiana. After reading Richard Allen's probable cause affidavit, Click, remember, Assistant Police Chief Todd Click, became concerned that the information contained in Richard Allen's affidavit pointing the finger at Richard Allen was far less compelling than the totality of the information that Detective Ferenczi, Detective Murphy, and Officer Click had accumulated during the Rushville portion of the investigation. The information that Murphy, Ferenczi, and Click had gathered during their investigation connected men who practiced Odinism in or near Delphi with another group of men who lived in Rushville, and then connected both groups of men to the murders.
What do you think?
Well, I think that picture of Richard Allen right there is very telling in itself, because your previous picture doesn't even resemble him.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely lost probably 50 pounds.
I mean, that kind of goes into what I was saying a minute ago about the dying declaration. I mean, this guy is clearly, he's done. He's given up. But this is interesting. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's wild. And I just think it's weird that this is on record, especially this part right here. So I need to know more about this section. You know what I mean? This is confusing to me. And, I get it. You're saying maybe the last declaration, could it be maybe this is I'm just going to throw that out there, an innocent guy behind bars, and this really is, I don't know. It's just, it's weird. I'm not leaning
that way. I'm not leaning that way.
Concerns me, though. This is the part that concerns me a little bit. So,
but you got to remember, Brian, this is what they do.
Yeah, there's definitely more to it.
This is part of it, and there's an internal affairs investigation. So this is an internal investigation within departments. And that's what I would like to see the results.
But let's just say maybe these other guys are involved with him. And that's what I'm saying. This could be these other guys are involved with him, and they really are into this ritualistic crap. You know, it could be, and that's what I'm saying. You know, that's what I was saying at the beginning of when we started the show, that this could
were
be.
those branches and stuff on the bodies, did they really, I mean, did they do like overlays and determine that these were actually ritualistic, or did it look like he was just trying to cover the body?
Close to the lot of the symbolism that's used in this Odinism cult. That's what this came from. So it's odd. It's very weird.
This is pointing the finger at specific people. Okay? Through the investigation of law enforcement, not the defense doing their own investigation. This is through the investigation of law enforcement. Click was concerned that for some reason the leadership of the investigative team had failed to share with prosecutor McClelland the evidence gathered by Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy. Click's concerns led him to seek out a lawyer to assist him in the drafting of a letter. This letter was then sent to McClelland. This is big stuff, okay?
Wild.
So let's bring in the heavy hitters joining us tonight in Indianapolis, Indiana. We go to them all the time on this story, have been doing it for years now. The hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast. Make sure you download the latest episode. Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee are with us. Great to see you both tonight. First, briefly though, because I want to get into the content here. Just your reaction to generally to all these things that came out in these 130 some odd pages, what the defense filed.
It's absolutely fascinating to see the defense lay out its case for the murders. And it's so disturbing to hear more about the homicides themselves and the crime scene. It's just heartbreaking to think about what those girls went through.
And these details that we're getting are really for the first time, right? I mean,
real quick, if you can find it, there's about 145 people in here. Just smash that like button. We want to get to 100 likes. That'll definitely help here on the algorithm.
You've been trying for years, but you know, it is what it is. Things have been sealed. Things have not been revealed. So if we take them at their word in what they put in their memorandum, this is earth-shattering stuff. So let's start first with this Odinite angle and the fact that there are apparently these 3 investigators who thought they were putting things together.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is very interesting to see some factions is sort of forming within law enforcement here. You have people, you know, obviously the official investigation is saying they believe Richard Allen does it, but these 3 investigators may have been sort of offshoots. And I think one thing that we're really curious to know is the allegation that law enforcement sort of wrongfully rejected this theory, is there any weight to that? Is that something where maybe they should have looked into it more? Or is this a situation where you had people become emotionally invested in their own theory and sort of didn't let it go, even if they weren't able to get to like probable cause? So it kind of leads to a couple of different possibilities. It's sort of fascinating, but it kind of gives you a sense of like, there were a lot of directions that we probably haven't even heard about yet as far as the investigation.
So the concept of Odinism and this Odinite angle that the defense is talking about, before these papers were filed, did you hear rumors of that? Was there any indication that this could have been a ritualistic sacrifice?
Yes, there were all sorts of rumors behind the scenes and whispers behind the scenes that there was some sort of Odinistic angle or runes left at the crime scene.
Just want to pause this for a second and just say it's nice to see everybody. Packed house here tonight on the show. It's nice to see everybody coming in and having some interest in this case. I appreciate you all. And, you know, I'm sure all those little controversy things sell. Everybody wants to know about what's going on in these cases. If you're just joining the show here, we're going over the Delphi murders, the new allegations of cult activity. Tonight I have Detective John from Crime Analysis 101 on the panel hanging out. If you haven't gone over, check out his channel. Feel free, John, to if you want to pull your link from your page and drop it in the chat, please do. Or if one of my mods can grab it and drop it in the chat, we appreciate it. I encourage you to go over there and support his channel. And we're going to continue through here, the Delphi murders.
We've never been able to 100% confirm those, so we never reported those. And of course, in this case, it's been plagued by all sorts of rumors from the very beginning.
So because you're out there, is there any other indication that Odinists are sacrificing people anywhere else? Or would this be the only criminal homicide that has potentially, again, potentially, it's what the defense is saying, a connection to Odinism?
That is such a good question, because that's the first thing we always do. Like, is this crime like any other crimes? And I can't say that we've officially dived into that research project yet, but we're trying very much to find potentially other Odinistic crimes, Odinistic murders of children specifically, and then also maybe other cults that, maybe could be comparable, I guess. But I would say generally our perception is that this sort of ritualistic sacrificial murder is not necessarily a prevalent thing here in Indiana.
And, the nature of it, I would think that if there was a murder like that, that it maybe would make the news and people would kind of know about it. But, some cases, I guess, a little more under the radar, maybe things aren't released publicly. Like in this case, we didn't know. We had no idea that what the scene looked like. So let me put up something else from this defense memorandum. Not only did the prosecution withhold that letter, and they're talking again about the letter from Assistant Police Chief Todd Click, from the defense, but law enforcement also withheld several other exculpatory pieces of evidence, including an 85-page compilation of reports by Click prepared in 2019 and several videos containing statements that support the defense theory of Richard Allen's innocence. This 85-page report detailed the investigative work performed by Click, Forensi, Murphy, and others, including the FBI. Then I want to get to...
Dude, if I had I may just do it one night. I think one night when I have time, I'm going to do a 3-hour show and read out this whole thing, because I have the memo and it's wild.
Right.
I mean, I've read through some of it. It's freaking wild. And I might do it on an earlier show one night and just bang the whole thing out and read through it. It's a wild memo. Wow, this is weird, man.
This, according to the summary of Click's investigation that he attached with his letter, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, BAU, of the FBI determined that the individual or individuals responsible for the homicides were involved in Nordic beliefs. What are your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. My initial question would be, would the BAU back that up at this point? It's a little surprising to hear the surety of the language there, that they confirmed that the people involved had Nordic beliefs, because I feel like you always have to put in the possibility of someone attempting to stage a scene and make it look like something it's not, right? So I don't know, but it's fascinating. And it also throws in the FBI, which of course came into this case very early on and then sort of has seemingly left it these days. So is not necessarily super involved anymore. So kind of also underscores that maybe there was some factionalism even between sort of local, state, and federal authorities.
So what questions has all of this now raised to you, now that you've gone through all of these pages and come across things that have been released for the very first time?
The big thing on my mind is these allegations that the defense made are incredibly serious. And so the question on my mind is there anything to these allegations? I am really interested in hearing how the prosecution responds to this. Did they, in fact, withhold exculpatory material from the defense? If so, that would be very, very serious. If they have an explanation, I think we'd all like to hear it.
Are there other questions about Richard Allen that this raised for you? Because part of this memo, there's, I think, several goals that they had in the way they laid it all out. And one big one that we talked about a little bit last night was that one person could not have done all of this. What are your thoughts about the way they describe it?
Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness.
Does it start with an I and end with an O?
Oh, man.
Well,
People are
every
so naive.
every case now is there's got to be multiple people involved,
Right.
Every case now. That's just the way it is, because it makes it more interesting You know, if we sat here and I'm telling you, if we sat here tonight and literally went, you know what, 100% it was a cult, there'd probably be
Right.
900 people in the room watching us.
Oh yeah,
You know,
because it's news.
well, it's new. Well,
It
because
sells.
it's controversy, it sells.
It sells. You know,
sells.
it's crazy sells, man. Crazy
Yeah.
sells.
Right.
All that and the scene where Abby and Libby were found.
Yeah, I thought the defense did a good
I'm gonna double time this. I'm gonna bring the speed up a little bit.
Remember when we first did this? We're like, can we speed that up, Brian?
Yeah.
We did it.
It's
Dude,
just
it actually-
it's the
it
pausing
actually
in
worked out
between.
good.
It's just
Yeah.
the pausing in between.
good job of kind of crafting this narrative. And I know for our listeners, we've already gotten a ton of emails about this
Speed it down just a little bit. We'll go 125.
and people sort of saying, wow, you know, it seems to have caught people's interest in a big way. And I would say, I think it's going to be a battle of the narratives. I think you're going to have the prosecution saying, this is an ordinary guy, and then he does this, and it was heinous, and, you know, why doesn't necessarily matter. Sometimes people just go out and do these things. And the defense is going to be crafting something about more of a wide-ranging conspiracy involving Odinists who have infiltrated prison and also, you know, were involved in these child murders. And so you're going to have the sort of ordinary versus the extraordinary. And it's going to be interesting to see which one carries the day with the jury, because we've interviewed people who knew Richard Allen and who, you know, grew up with him. And by all accounts, he was a very normal guy. So there's not really that kind of salacious aspect that you have in sort of an Odinistic cult. So I just sort of think we're sort of seeing the sides form right now.
Now, all of us who've been following the story and covering the story, there's a series now of I wouldn't call them suspects, but people who, okay, are they connected? Are they connected? Including the Anthony Schatz social media stuff. How does what we learned here, how does it change, alter, or perhaps supplement, you know, everything else that we've learned?
I think one thing it does is it shows that these investigators never had blinders on. They looked at a wide variety of leads and they pursued them to the best of their abilities. They had officers trying to run down this Odinist stuff. They had officers trying to run down Anthony Schatz. They had officers trying to run down Chadwell and some of the other suspects over the years. And ultimately, they ended up, the only person they could make a probable cause case against was Richard Allen. And so they arrested him.
And you know what's fascinating about this story, and why I think it's going to be a difficult case for prosecutors, is I speak to people who have been there, have done, like you, and who have done podcasts and things, and people tell me, and I always ask,
There's that video.
I mean, that's compelling. I mean, why would they video him? I mean, they had to have some kind of a, man, I'm sorry, I'm ignorant when it comes to this case. I really wasn't following it a whole lot.
There's a 43-second video that has not been shown yet.
Right.
That also
did the girls make any phone calls or send any text or anything?
They had no time. Because right after this video was apparently when they were.
Do they have cast on him?
Not sure.
I bet you they do.
Well, the cast is in everything now.
Well, he's admitting he was there, so.
him and about 10 other cult members. I don't know. You know, I'm not going to ask him on the air, but I'll ask him sometimes, well, who do you think did it? And you get different answers from different people who have studied all this. I've never seen anything like this where, people who are, really involved in it can look at this and say, oh no, it's this person. Oh no, it's this person. But I don't know if anyone's convinced that any of them, I don't think they're convinced beyond a reasonable doubt on any of them. And then Richard Allen is the one who came out of nowhere.
In many ways, he's the most boring suspect.
Yeah, what a great description. This guy, there's nothing to it. There's no computer searches. There's just a bullet.
Yeah, you look at some of the other suspects, they have a history of violence. They have histories of child sexual abuse materials. This guy just was a regular working Joe who every day went to work at the CVS at the pharmacy, didn't cause any trouble at all. So as Anya says, he's the dullest of the suspects, probably.
Unbelievable developments. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, folks, listen to it after my show, right? You can download it now, but listen after the show, the Murder Sheet podcast. And I hope you guys will come back because we're going to do this again tomorrow night. So hopefully we'll be able to track you down again tomorrow. Thank you so much. All right, folks, we've got more to get to here. How about those sketches? What about those sketches? More information in these pages filed by the defense undermining the sketches. We'll talk. All right, there's part of this Delphi case that has always confused me, and I never really understood it. Like, that's a video, and that's what they've been telling us. This is the killer. This is a video of the killer taken by Libby. Okay, amazing that she did this, but that's the killer. Despite the fact that we have video of the actual killer, we also have sketches of the alleged suspects in this case. Let's put it up on the screen. February 2017, this was a witness description to the sketch artist of a man on the Monon High Bridge. And this is, again, February 2017, the month that it happened. White, about 20 years old, brown curly hair with a medium build, okay? And that was the sketch artist put together. Now, in the papers, again, that the defense has filed, they write, the Unified Command, again, this is the investigative agency running the whole thing. The Unified
the fucking sketch of the guy right there to the left, bro. That's him.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty compelling. Wasn't the one on the right kind of dispelled? They kind of threw that out.
Yeah.
At some point, and they're like, "Nah, it was just a
that's
driver of a
him.
car close by or something." I don't know. I just remember trying to familiarize myself with this case.
Unified Command did not release the witness sketch to the public for over 2 years. Instead, they first released another witness's sketch called Sketch 1. The other sketch was illustrated by FBI sketch artist Plants from Detroit on June 19, 2017, and released to the public July 17, 2017. Roughly 2 years later, in March of 2019, the witness met with Tony Liggett, frustrated that her sketch number 2, the one on the right of your screen, had not been released to the public. Witness was frustrated because sketch number 1, which had been released almost 2 years before, did not match the man that she observed on the High Bridge. The witness even commented that sketch number 1, the one on the left side of your screen, is wrong. Now, March 2019, the witness description to law enforcement. The man on the Monon High Bridge, slender and youthful, boyish, in his 20s to 30s. His hair seemed poofy, no facial hair. You know, looks like a young Justin Timberlake, for goodness sakes. Now, also from this defense memorandum, on April 22nd, 2019, the Unified Command, the investigators, released the witness's sketch number 2 to the general public. In fact, upon its release, Superintendent Doug Carter commented that the man in sketch 2 was responsible for the murders. Also, at the time of the release of sketch 2, Doug Carter also stated that sketch 1 had now become secondary to the investigation. All of this totally confusing at the time.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
And I think even more confusing now, because that sketch of the one who looks like Justin Timberlake doesn't look like Richard Allen and doesn't look like the guy in the video. What's going on here? I need some help. Joining me in Orange County, California, the author of Forest for the Trees, a book about the Delphi murders. Investigative producer Chris Todd is with us. And in Jacksonville, Florida, retired FBI special agent Jennifer Coffendaffer. Great to have you both here. Chris, is this the strangest part of this whole investigation?
Someone's friend, right?
Yeah.
Someone's friend.
I mean, there's a lot of strange parts, and we've learned much more now. But how do you make sense, or can you make sense, of the sketches, the descriptions, and what the defense is now alleging?
This is one of the strangest cases I've ever been involved in, for sure. And a lot of people have worked on this, a lot of podcasters, journalists, Leos, and a lot of people in Delphi in this community know the work that I've done and the people I've worked with. And these sketches, they don't look anything alike. They don't resemble, actually, BG at all. And
when you say BG, you mean Bridge Guy, right? Bridge Guy in the video?
Yeah, Bridge Guy. Everybody calls him BG. And I've already said who Bridge Guy is, and I will stick to that. And I don't believe Richard Allen is Bridge Guy, and I don't believe he ever will be. So these two sketches look nothing alike. They're from two different, or multiple witnesses actually gave differing, just like the trail witnesses said someone was in all black or they're in all blue. This case is a circus. I'm just going to say that. And I do have some bombshell information for you today, Vinny, if we get to it.
Oh, if it's a bombshell, we'll get
I'd just like to know if Richard Allen has any of that clothing. Does he have that hat?
Well, I was just about to ask that. Didn't they do a search warrant and find that jacket? They found that jacket, did they not?
Come on,
I'm pretty sure here? This is just, like I said, it's just a Hail Mary from the defense because it's a DP case. If this wasn't a DP case, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I can promise you.
It's wild. It's wild. All right, let's hear what Jennifer has to say. Then we'll finish this segment. I'm not going to go through this whole video. I do want to get to the body language. I think that's going to be interesting.
To it. but we'll have to wait. That way people keep watching. That's the way we do it, Chris, here on television. All right. Jennifer Koffendorfer, your thoughts about the way these sketches were handled and released? Like, why do you get a sketch in February and then not release it for 2 years and then tell us this is the one? I don't understand that. Why would you do that?
Well, I think the important thing is understanding really how these sketches came about. The first sketch was actually taken not only from witness accounts, but also from really the video of Bridge Guy as best that they could ascertain what he looked like. And that was released. And if you look at that sketch.
And you're talking about the one all the way to the left now? Are you talking about the one all the way to the left of the screen?
Yes, the first sketch.
Well, we got to, I don't want to call it first and second, because I think the boy one was the first one done, but the second one released. So when you say first sketch released or first sketch that's sketched?
Apologies. The first sketch released, not the boy.
Okay,
not
gotcha.
the Timberlake.
Gotcha.
All right. So if you look at that sketch, it ended up resembling the FBI subject in this matter, who was Ron Logan. There was a whole affidavit written about him and the fact that they believed he was the prime suspect in the case. If you look at the second sketch, which was released late, but as you said, made earlier from a witness statement, that came about almost 2 years after, as you pointed out. Why did it come about? The FBI at that point had removed themselves from the investigation. There were issues between two different ideologies in terms of who was the suspect, and so they released this new one looking for new leads.
Now, I was a prosecutor. This is like oozing of reasonable doubt. I'm not saying that they arrested the wrong guy. I don't know who did it. I wasn't there, obviously, right? We got to see and hear all the evidence in court. But I know the way trials go. And once they start putting these different sketches, and they do like we did, and they put the sketch next to Richard Allen, and then none of it makes sense. None of this makes sense to me. So what do you think, Chris, about the eyewitnesses? Who do the eyewitnesses help in this case, or are the eyewitnesses, does their testimony conflict with one another to an extent that these descriptions become meaningless?
I mean, I'm looking at this Frank's motion a little bit, right? The sons of Odin and all these. I think that's where we're at this second. There's many witnesses. There were a lot of people on the trail that day, a lot. And other names keep coming up.
Yeah, let's not mention any of them. We're not. I'm just letting the folks at home know that we're not mentioning names purposely. I tell them every night because there are names that the defense is naming, but we specifically are just not doing it until there's more information out there. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is this Frank's motion is where the case is at today. This is the most important thing. The defense is creating this scenario of other people looking at other people, this ritualistic pagan ceremony, and this has been going on since day one with Tony Klein, Kegan Klein. These names, everyone said these names. But I'm saying is, so today this case is moving at 1,000 miles an hour. This is bombshell information, and I understand what the defense is doing, but I'm just going to say this to you right now, okay? The runes, this writing in blood on the tree, I'm not buying any of it. And I have multiple sources that you
look at this, John. Tokyo in the house tonight.
I just saw that.
Tokyo in
Tokyo.
the house. Yep. Nijmak's been around here for a long time. Thank you so much for congratulating me on the 10,000 subscribers. He said working time here in Tokyo, so it's difficult to join the live. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. My fiance is half Japanese. Her mom's from Tokyo.
We're in Japan, man. We're in Japan.
They actually just got back from Japan.
That's awesome.
Super clean place.
Too.
I want to go there sometime. Definitely want to go there sometime.
On the inside on this investigation, I'm not buying any of it.
That's fascinating. Now, Jennifer, what we talked about in the second part is that the defense is alleging that the FBI BAU, Behavioral Unit, said this was consistent with some sort of Nordic ritual. Like, does that
keep smashing that like button, guys,
ladies?
Yeah, let's get Brian up to.
Well, the Behavioral Analysis Unit with the FBI, they have a huge database of cases that would have been similar. Now, remember, this wasn't the first Odinist type murder. There were 6 cases of crimes, I should say, where the individuals were Odinists. And the most famous one occurred in 2011 in Norway, which was a horrible mass murder in a school. And so in any event, they are going to take some of those markers, if you will, and look and do some comparative analysis. So BAU is actually quite good at this. I had numerous cases when I was in the Bureau that I sent to them, and I said, these are the clues I have. Can you give me some clue as to what kind of person I'm looking for in terms of age, in terms of race, anything they could give me. And I can tell you, in 3 of those instances, I remember them so clearly, they were spot on. So I'm not saying they're spot on here. I haven't seen the report they wrote, but I'm saying they are good at what they do.
All right, Chris Todd, in all your investigating of this, did you ever come across this Odinism? Was that something that you heard of? Is that something that you investigated in the area?
Thank you,
I heard about, and the murder sheet's right, these rumors were coming out right away. Within the first year or two, there were rumors of these runes. I get writing from fans or audience members and sleuths. They keep driving this to me. The sticks were in a certain way, and this is Odin, and this is Germanic. And I'm like, you know, and look, I can't say too much of how I know about crime scene photos, autopsies, photos of the bodies. I can't say too much about that. I'm just saying I understand what's going on, and this happens in a lot of other cases. I'm just calling it hogwash. And I challenge anyone, show me the photos.
I said that earlier.
Of this rune and blood and these sticks.
Said hogwash.
Show me.
All right, our guests are staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about some more alleged conflicting witness statements. What does it all mean? This case is getting more complicated.
I can guarantee you tomorrow, I'm going to have a few people very angry at me.
Wow. That now gives that now we're talking about 2 people. So
I have way more than that, but if I say this other stuff, it'll light the town on fire.
Okay, let me ask you this. If it's not the same person, are you saying there's more than one person at the scene and attacking?
There is more than one killer, absolutely.
Huh. Okay.
Jennifer Kopfendorfer, is there any way to tell from the, and I mean, the level of that recording is not the greatest. It's not terrible. It's not the greatest. Any way to attempt to match the voice to someone?
So in these cases, there definitely is a unit at the FBI that can compare and do voice analysis. The problem is they will not be able to say 100% sure that these are the same voices. So the problem is there's never going to be an exact answer. And back to the question, though, about whether there was more than one person, I'm reminded of the prosecutor who, when it was being discussed about sealing the information, actually said that there was more than one person. And so we need to seal because we're still investigating. So I just find that was interesting when he said those words.
So let's take one more listen because everybody at home wants to hear the voice one more time. So we're going to play it for you 3 times in a row. Let's take a listen. Now, again, we are the ones who put the video with the audio because this is the video that was released that did not have the audio on it. The audio is separate. So what Chris is saying today now is that the man that is walking there is not the voice that we hear. Chris,
Let me clarify. Let me clarify.
Okay.
What?
Okay. No, BG is saying down the hill. The person saying guys is not on camera. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Guys actually comes after down the hill. It's out of order.
What?
What the fuck?
Man, this is like deja vu, Brian.
What's going on in this, man?
It's just ridiculous.
I can't wait till we're going to end this segment in a second. We're going to get to the body language expert, and I think he's going to get some expertise on this and some eyes and debunk, I think, a lot with this guy.
The guys down the hill sounds like one sentence to me.
And I think
Guys
this dude,
down the
I think
hill.
this dude's trying to sell books.
Sounds like one person to me. You know, he had a gun. Guys down the hill. And you know what's funny? If you look at that video, it almost looks like he has the gun in his jacket pocket, in his right jacket pocket.
Interesting.
Go back to the video if you can. You can see.
Yeah, well, and Vinny's like, what?
Clarify. Let me clarify.
Okay. Yeah, like he's holding something.
See that outline?
Yeah.
That's not a hand. That's something very hard. It looks like a gun to me.
Interesting.
Okay. No, BG is saying down the hill. The person saying guys is not on camera. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Guys actually comes after down the hill. It's out of order.
What?
Prove it.
So what you're saying is that this audio
was manipulated,
edited,
spliced,
rearranged, and then.
And I'm not blaming law enforcement. It might be a smart tactic. I'm going to stick up for them right here.
100%
Because remember, we only first heard down the hill. We didn't hear guys. That came out of nowhere later on. They never explained why were they releasing the word guys. So
Ashley Bryan, if you look at that
down the hill comes from
that's the back of the gun right there. I'm telling you, right
He's
there.
holding it.
You can see it.
Yeah. And SJ Howard
else has noticed that.
He limped on his right leg. I do the same due to a knee replacement. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that audio sounds spliced as hell to me. Okay. What's up, Slayer? How are you? Good to see you. All right, let's keep playing this and then end this. We'll go to the body language expert.
First, and that phone stays on, and Libby did an amazing job. What a courageous little girl. Okay.
This came into the chat. There's 165 people in here. I really would appreciate it if you could smash that like button. It helps get this podcast out in the algorithm. And we tell YouTube that this is a very viable podcast and it should be pushed out in the algorithm. So I need that help there. If you can just push that like button, it's free to do it. I appreciate it.
And it carries further. And then someone says, guys, and gives a command to do something.
He's kind of limping.
And I won't say what it is.
Very possible, because we have not heard the whole thing. Jennifer Kopfendorfer is with, first of all, let me ask you this, Chris. Is it your belief that it's very obvious when you look at the complete thing that it's two different people?
I always believed early on from sources that came to me and investigators, and even we have Leo whistleblowers and stuff. And a lot of normal people believed it would be really hard for one person, especially.
But what I'm asking you, Chris, is the voice that we hear from that recording. When you see the whole recording, is it obvious in the context of that it's two different voices?
It wasn't to me until I was basically schooled, and I can't say how. And then it woke me up. And this case has changed every day. I was shocked more than anyone. And then I went on my own research. I do believe guys is said by a different person. I know who says down the hill. I know who says down the hill. I don't know who says guys.
All right, Jennifer Kopfendorfer, to me, this is exactly bombshell, right? How significant is all this to the investigation? And would there be any reason to release the audio the way investigators did?
Well, in terms of that information, if that is in fact accurate, yes, it's very significant, because if they are saying, and I'm not sure how they would know, because again, as I mentioned, voice identification is not a precise science, but it seems that there are some sources that apparently are saying there are two different voices. If that's true, of course, it is quite a bombshell, because law enforcement now has turned to saying it is just Richard Allen and Richard Allen alone. But boy, after this 100-page, manuscript, so to speak, there was a lot to digest in all of that. And Vinny, it's certainly concerning, because I do believe there was blood on the tree, and I have that on very good authority. But was it the murderer wiping his fingers like this?
Right.
To get blood off the fingers, and it made it F. In terms of the stick configuration, was it just happened to be how it fell? We knew it looked like a rune. I mean, that was always my understanding. But you can't discount that it's just sort of how those sticks might have piled up. But the prosecution, at the end of the day, Vinny, they're going to have a lot of explaining to do regarding the sticks and that blood.
Trust me. All right, Chris, one other thing I just want to follow up on that we were going to spend a little more time on, but the muddy and bloody description by a witness, in the affidavit that the prosecution put out there, they said that someone was seen wearing a blue-colored jacket, blue jeans, and was muddy and bloody. The defense says the witness never said bloody. What are your thoughts? Was this person muddy and bloody, just muddy? And what is that? How significant is all of that?
I don't know if I believe this witness at all. I know a lot of people on this case. Everybody knows how deeply involved I am on this. I don't know if there ever was a person walking on North 300. They say it's a tan coat, it was a blue coat, it was a young guy. I mean, the killer's going to break the tree line and walk on the road in broad daylight, muddy and bloody.
A lot of this. Okay, we're out of time for tonight, but obviously there's a lot more to talk about. Chris.
Holy smokes. What a weird case, huh?
His gait, the way that he's walking with his head down, the body language there. I know you're going to get into that. It's kind of a unimposing type of a walk. not to startle the girls. It's kind
Right.
it's a stalking, surveilling, following type of a walk. Okay, I'm gonna wait on my opportunity, kind of like an animal stalking his prey. And the way that he's doing it is just so unimposing, but it gave that little girl the creeps, and she felt
Grab
like
their
he
phone
was
and filmed
probably
it.
closing in on them. And yeah, I mean, we
All right.
we can speculate for sure, but
Let's
I'm
see
not
what-
buying any of this garbage, to be
See what
honest
the
with
body
you.
language expert Dr. G says. I hope he doesn't mind me using his video. I'll leave the link here in the chat if anybody wants to go actually watch the video without our commentary. So we'll play through this, see what Dr. G says. Make sure to go over and subscribe to his channel. It's really good.
Licensed clinical psychologist and body.
This guy's voice is just awesome.
Dr. G
Today
here
we're
in
going to be
Orlando
analyzing
is
the
a
case
medical
of the
examiner.
Delphi
She's awesome.
Yeah.
murders. The Delphi murders happened on February 13th, 2017. Abigail Williams, who was 13 years old, and Libby German, who was 14 years old, were brutally murdered in the woods. Richard Allen has been arrested and charged with both murders. His defense claims that one person could not have acted alone and committed the murders. Additionally, they claim that the murders were ritualistic and that a local Odinist group, in fact, is the one who committed a ritual sacrifice. I'm going to explain today why both of those claims are nonsense. In addition to that, we're going to take a brief look at his body language. But before we get started with that, I wanted to let you know that this is not any sort of formal psychological evaluation. I'm just giving my opinions based on publicly available information. Additionally, I'm not trying to speak on the guilt nor the innocence of Richard Allen. Last thing before we get started is that I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. The way that I'm approaching this information is with my counterterrorism background. I was involved for a couple of years in a counterterrorism program run by current and former U.S. intelligence. One of the big focuses in that program was domestic terrorism. So I know a lot of extremist groups in addition to my background in psychology. So I'm using that perspective to analyze this information because it's very much relevant to the claims that are being made. Now we're going to look at a brief video that was caught on Libby's phone. People oftentimes refer to him as Bridge Guy. It is presumed that this is in fact the man who killed them. Let's see if there's anything that the body language of the man on the bridge can tell us. As you can see here, he takes fairly small strides. His back is hunched over a little bit. You can see he walks with his arms back. And this is a very distinct posture. It's not that there's not multiple people that do this, but this is a distinct way of walking. You can tell his back is hunched over a little bit because of the way that his head is pushed forward, right? Because if you see somebody stand upright, it looks quite different. Now, part of that could be that he's trying to hide. I talk oftentimes about how we take on body postures that are meant to make us smaller. And so keeping his hands in his pockets, not moving his arms, keeping his head forward a little bit, that could be his natural gait, or it could be him trying not to seem suspicious. Look how slowly and calmly he's walking. I genuinely do not believe this is the first time that this individual has committed murder. What we're going to do is we're going to watch a little bit of Richard Allen walking, the limited amount of footage we have of that, and we'll compare the two. Now we're going to watch Richard Allen being...
So he said that he believes that this person in the video has committed murder before. Did I get that right?
That's what I heard. He doesn't believe this is the first time he's committed. What, based on his gait? I mean, that's a stretch. I don't know.
Escorted to a hearing. I want us to get an idea of what his body posture is like as he does this. Now, what we're...
Dude, that guy looks beat up, bro.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I was saying, man. He's
fucking done.
given up. That's why I think the kind of dying declaration is he's done, dude.
He
knows,
fucking done.
I mean, an innocent man is not going to look like that, in my opinion. Well, I mean, he's conceded to the fact that he's a done deal.
I can
Just
say this.
My opinion, guys.
I can say this. Brian Koberger looks a little bit older these days.
Yeah, he looks a little deflated, doesn't he?
Yeah.
No pep in that step.
Yeah, let's do this.
As he does this.
This guy looks beat, bro.
Now, what we're seeing here is we're seeing somebody that's a bit hunched over, right? Like he leans forward, his chin is down, fairly similar to what we saw from the man on the bridge. Now, I want you to keep in mind, what we can't do is say the guy on the bridge, Richard Allen are definitely the same person because they walk the same. But what we can do is we can say that there is some similarity. If he looks totally different, then you might say, okay, this doesn't match up at all. And what we're seeing so far is some pretty similar body posture. Let's go back and watch this again.
Wait, but you got a guy that's being held by two people too. I mean, you can't really.
I'm putting this up so you can watch them both walk at the same time and form your own opinions.
Really, he's
based
being
on what you're
led.
observing.
I don't know how you could really get anything out of this.
Right.
I'm just playing defense attorney,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Now we're going to talk about the psychology and the behavior of a couple of the points made by the defense. First, the idea that it had to have been more than one person, which I find utterly ridiculous. This one I think is frankly offensive to Libby and Abigail, because really they're suggesting that there's no way that if he was attacking one person, that the other person would have stayed, that they would have run away, that it would require more than one person. And that is simply not true. One is if you look at the freeze response. When we think about fight or flight, it's really freeze, flight, and fight. First thing that we do is freeze. We freeze and we try to hide. This is something that many people get stuck in, whether it's during attacks, assaults. There's all sorts of ways that people get stuck in freeze. And I don't like
Dylan Mortensen.
Right.
it when people use the argument that somebody should have run away, because I really don't think that they can fully appreciate just how impossible it is to run when freeze, flight, or fight is activated. Some people truly are stuck in freeze, the shock and the disbelief of what is happening. Compliance under threat is another one. It's reported that he had a gun. And if you had a gun, even if for your own well-being that running away would have been a possible way to escape, it's a ludicrous idea that somebody with a gun couldn't make people comply. The age of Abby and Libby, you have to keep in mind how young they were. And when you have an adult with a gun that is telling them God knows what, or making threats that we don't even know, the idea that it would take two people to do that is preposterous. Truly it is. So frankly, I think suggesting that is blaming the victims, suggesting, well, one person couldn't have done that. I think that is an insult to the memory of these girls to truly suggest that that's the case. Social compliance can be another one. When someone orders you to do something, it can be hard to resist or to say no or to know what to do, particularly if they have a gun. The amount of overwhelmed confusion. These girls are not equipped to think like this or to know what to do in those situations. When things are happening, the level of shock that is going on is hard to describe how anybody would actually react in these situations. People would like to think, oh yeah, I would have just gotten up and run away. Right. So think about it like this. There's a predator and there are two victims. You think one of those victims would want to leave the other one alone? If they're making threats, hey, you leave, I'm going to do this. Whatever it is that was being said at that time, the psychological control that can happen in that kind of situation is beyond what I think most people can truly comprehend. Now, does that mean it wasn't more than one person? Obviously not. Obviously, it could have been more than one person. But the suggestion that it had to be more than one person is utterly ridiculous and works against the tenets of psychology, trauma, and fear as we know it. I really genuinely do not believe that it would require more than one person to do exactly what happened. So now we're going to take some time to talk about the...
Simo's kind of like pissed about it that was raised in this case.
Rightly so. I mean, if you listen to the recording, I mean, he clearly has an authoritative voice. Down the hill, guys.
Yeah.
You know, he's probably pointing a gun at that point. I mean, that's a compliance. You know, guns demand compliance. Down the hill, guys.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I
mean, what are you going to do?
Ritual aspect.
Oh, what's an adult? What are two adults going to do? I mean, they're going to comply more than likely. You're in the 100%. Woods, you know.
100%.
Effect of this and why that argument doesn't really make any sense. One is the idea that sticks were laid on the bodies in some sort of runic formation that was somehow meaningful. Another is that there was an F or something that appeared to be like an F that maybe was a rune drawn on a tree. It's also claimed that the position of one of the bodies is similar to, but not exactly like, art known in the pagan world. So let's go through point by point, and I'm going to explain why the logic of this doesn't really make any sense. Let's take a minute to talk about complex rituals versus criminal acts. Okay, so they're claiming that there is this big, elaborate, complex ritual, and we're going to explain why that really doesn't make sense. But the criminal side of things, so they're suggesting that white nationalists, this has taken over this Odinist group, or they're using that ideology. Typically for extremist groups, they use hate speech, they use propaganda, and they engage in acts of terror sometimes in the really extreme forms. The sacrifice or the claimed sacrifice or ritual does not meet any of those. It makes no sense in that ideology, none whatsoever. But what the defense is doing is they're presenting ideas about Odinism and all of this because nobody really knows much about it. I didn't know much about it before I started researching it. I know a lot about extremist groups. I could talk about them all day, but Odinism, paganism, and all that stuff, it took a lot of research, but I was able to pretty easily debunk all of this, which we'll get to. But as far as the ideology of the extremists goes, it doesn't hold water. It doesn't make sense. And there's no purpose that they would murder 2 adolescent Caucasian girls because that doesn't serve any ideological purpose. So let's talk about the alleged rune that was on the tree. So there was blood on the tree that was in a marking something like this, or at least it was alleged to be something like this shape. This does look similar to the letter F. It also looks similar to a specific rune, that rune meaning wealth or cattle, apparently. It's not one that's used in sacrifices. It's not one that's used in rituals, and it's not one that's used related to things Odin. This doesn't make any sense. So, okay, does it look rune-ish? A lot of things look rune-ish. It's just different angles and a couple of different lines crossed together. You can do that with pretty much anything. But in the context of a ritual, it makes no sense. I want you to be thinking about this as I talk about the ritual side of things. If these were people that were so serious about a ritual that they were literally willing to murder 2 people for the ritual, do you not think that they would actually get the ritual parts of it right? Do you not think that they would be engaging in something that's consistent, that's been done before? Because everything that's been described has never been seen before. These are not things that are done. Now let's talk about the sticks that were allegedly shaped into runes on top of the bodies. From what's described by the defense, the sticks are laying in a pattern, something like this. The problem is that once again, this is not part of a ritual. This doesn't really make any sense. There's no reason why you would have the sticks laying on the bodies. That's not something that's done by pagans or Odinists or anybody. So it's not like this is consistent with any sort of ritual. And once again, you're going to tell me that somebody is going to sacrifice a human and then just make up the rest of the ritual on their own and do something nobody's ever seen before? That doesn't make any sense. Extremist Odinists are not known for acting these kinds of rituals out or having sort of a ritual gone bad. It doesn't make sense with everything that we know about the far extremist versions of Odinists. It just doesn't add up and is not consistent with behavior, with known behavior of Odinists. The ritual elements. There were no known ritual elements incorporated into this from what I can tell. And so the idea that it's people just haphazardly doing things in the woods and sacrificing people doesn't hold water. It doesn't make sense. The date, February 13th, holds no significance. I looked if the date overlaps with any sort of holidays. It doesn't. There's nothing special about that day. So why would such a significant sacrifice be done on that day if these were people that actually believed in this? Multiple people going along with this. Here's another problem. Let's just say for argument, you said, okay, fine. This wasn't somebody who was actually an Odinist, but maybe they'd been Googling it and were thinking about it, and then they put all this haphazard stuff together, and this is somebody who's just completely lost their mind. Okay, fine. So you're going to tell me that this is a group, though, and that this is part of a bigger thing, and that other people are not only willing to go along with this, but they're okay with it? Like I said, I know a lot about extremist groups. I don't know much about Odinism other than what I've studied for the past couple of days, but the idea that this somehow represents either Odinists, which it really doesn't seem to, or extremists, which also doesn't really make any sense, just doesn't hold any water. And from what I've read, it sounds like they're also throwing in the idea that there are different people who work in the prison system or something like that, that wear these runes on their badge and all of this stuff. Now we're coming to the idea of conspiracy, and that's where it starts to get even more ludicrous. And so part of what being able to develop...
You know what channels are running with that, dude. You know what channels are going to run with that.
Yeah. He used an appropriate word, ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous, in my opinion. But they're going to run with it because what? Crazy sells.
Crazy sells, clicks, and views. Another 3 minutes, we're going to wrap this up.
Conspiracies is it's being able to make meaning out of things that don't mean anything. It's able to find coincidences or something that we project our own thoughts and beliefs and feelings onto, leaving identifying evidence behind. Think about it like this. Let's say that this really was some sort of perverse, bizarre person who decided to commit some sort of ritual and sacrifice where they really don't have to leave runes around, because from my understanding, that's not really a thing typically. They're going to leave things that identify their ideology and who they're connected with. That doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? Because this isn't a known part of performing those kinds of rituals from what I've read. So why would you do that? Why would you leave evidence behind that helps people identify who you are when it's not a necessary part of what you're doing? It doesn't make any sense. So this argument preys on people's fears. The idea that there are people committing human sacrifice is obviously a very scary concept. So when they're talking about something...
I got a question. This is odd. Why is he wearing headphones? He doesn't need to.
Yeah, right. And a mic.
I mean, he can have a mic. I get that, but why are you wearing headphones? He's not listening to anything.
Maybe he's subconscious about his ears or
Maybe.
something. I don't know.
And that people don't know anything about. Oftentimes we do react with fear. I think this is smart on the part of the defense in the sense that for some people, they might find this really scary. I personally find it ridiculous. And I think that the idea that this is how they're deciding to frame things is problematic, because I don't think that this holds water. And I don't know if a jury would be convinced by an argument like this. I am certainly not, because to me, this all seems like projection, like coincidence. And there's nothing about this that logically makes any sense. So the suggestion of Odinism preys on the idea that most of us don't know anything about it, which is true. I think the vast majority of us know little to nothing about Odinism. I know a lot about white supremacist groups. I know a lot about extremist groups. They don't really engage in these kind of practices either. They may do acts of terror sometimes, but not just randomly. And they don't just randomly commit murder and then identify who they are. This doesn't make any sense. If people like that were going to identify who they were, it would be, once again, preying on someone vulnerable, some sort of warning to minorities or to society or something like that. There was no message here. This was just murdering two girls. I think likely what we're dealing with is a sexual sadist and a psychopath, someone who's murdered before. Whoever Bridge Guy is, he seemed pretty calm. And if he knew he was going to murder somebody and he had that level of calm, I would be absolutely shocked if he hasn't done it before. So I hope this analysis is helping you get a better idea of the psychology behind all of this. I know it's complicated. I know it's confusing, but hopefully it's giving you a better understanding. And before we wrap things up, I do want to let you know that I always read the comments, and I would love for you to give me more.
All right, go give Dr. G a like if you haven't already.
He made 100% total sense for a change. I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, that form of a cult, isn't that like a Viking cult? I don't remember.
Yeah, Nordic cult.
Yeah, they're not really into doing this type of rituals anyway. It's usually your satanic stuff and witchcraft, things like that. I mean,
spirit.
And generally, we had a case here back in the 80s that was it was a cult, and there's a lot of blood involved, generally paganism and drawings, things like that. But I don't see it. But hey, they're gonna run with it because, like I said, it's a DP case, and they're gonna fight tooth and nail. They have to.
All right, about the headphones. Oh my God, I get it. Like, I just was making a goofy joke. Oh my God, it's like the headphones. I get it. I get it. All right. I don't wear headphones. I listen to speakers. Headphones. Anyway.
Right.
Holy smokes. Sometimes it's like I was trying to make a joke.
Right.
All right, big guy. I think we're going to wrap this puppy up. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Episode 105 in the books. That's Detective John. Go check him out. Crime Analysis 101. LTL.
Hi, everybody. Hey, help me out, guys, if you can. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. Just been about a month now, so we're rapidly getting up there. But I think I'm at like 780 now.
Let me get his link. Hang on.
So Kelly's one of my mods. You got Mindy in here. She's one of my mods too. So the team's over here, with Brian, and
let's see.
You guys are always welcome to come over when Brian's not on, and
Yeah.
check us out as well. We have a good time, and Brian comes over to my show. I come over here, and I like to think Brian and I are a team. You know, we're all,
of course. Anytime,
we're all
man.
trying to do the same thing.
Link is dropped. Go over there and
Thank you, man.
give a sub bub.
Hey, you had a lot of great support on our show last night. A lot of people said a lot of nice things about you. I don't know if you read the chat.
I did. I was reading it. It was fun.
But everybody had some great things to say about you, man. So
it was interesting. It was interesting.
You're doing good things, and
we're trying. We're trying to beat through this algorithm.
Right?
Freaking algorithm, man. It just doesn't want to cooperate. Does not want to cooperate.
Well, yeah, like I said last night, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. But you know,
super hard.
I'm chipping away, humbly trying to. You know, if it wasn't for my mods do a lot for me, and the show, so they help me out a lot. So we're all learning together.
It's all we can do.
It's all we can do.
All
if
right,
you ain't learning, you're not living.
Right. All right, kids, we're gonna get out of here. I'll see you tomorrow night, 8:15. Shappy. We're gonna get into Lauren Reed. We're gonna get into Karen Reed. It's a very interesting case right here in the great state of Massachusetts. And I have some time next week where I'll probably go and shoot some video of the alleged murder scene where it all went down. So stay tuned for all of that. All right, I'm going to get out of here. That's Detective John. Oh, I got it right. He's over there. I'm Brian, LTL Podcast. We're out of here. Bye, kids.